Chapter 6, Section 1 is all about one-step equations with addition and subtraction. You really need to make sure you understand the one-step equations, because if you don't, then when we get to the two-step equations, you really will be confused then, because one-step equations will go into the two-step equations. So first of all, an equation. An equation is an expression that has an equal sign. So we have variables, we have operations, we have numbers, okay? An equation can have all of those things with them. And then one thing the book might say is a solution. A solution is just the answer to an equation, or your answer once you've solved an equation. Alright, so those are two new vocabulary words. These are also new vocabulary terms, and we'll get into that once we start with our actual problems. Now, when you go to solve, the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what am I trying to find? Well, in these problems, you're trying to find what the letter or the variable stands for. Here, I'm trying to find n. So I always highlight that so I know what I'm looking for. Well, since I want to find n, that means I want it to be n equals something. So I need that n to be by itself. For n to be by itself on that side, I need to get rid of the plus 6. Well, we can't just take it away. So instead, we have to cancel it out. To cancel it out, I would do minus 6, because a positive 6 and then minus 6 would be 0. So they cancel. Now, what the subtraction property of equality tells me is that in order for an equation to stay equal, if I subtract 6 from one side, I have to subtract 6 from the other side. So in order for the equation to stay equal, if I subtract a number on one side, I have to do the exact same thing on the other side. And what I mean by the other side is the other side of the equal sign. These don't cancel. Instead, 8 minus 6 is 2. I still have my equal sign. On this side, it's still n. Now I've solved for n, so my solution is 2. And you can always double check these. The way you would double check this is you plug that number back in for n. n is 2, so 2 plus 6 equals, and that's 8, and that's what it was supposed to equal. So that works. 2 is my answer. And when you write it, always write it n equals 2, or whatever variable it is equals 2. The next one, you're going to do the same thing. From here, you look at your variable and highlight what you're trying to solve for. Then again, you look at what you need to get rid of so that variable can be by itself. Well, here, the 2's on the same side, so I need to get rid of that. Since it's a plus 2 or a positive 2, I would need 2 negatives or a minus 2. And again, because of the subtraction property of equality, if I do something to one side of the equal sign, I still have to do it to the other side so that it stays equal. From here, 7 minus 2 is 5. Y, and positive 2 minus 2, that's going to be a 0. They cancel out. The only thing here that I'm going to say is that's the right answer, but we always put our variables first. So y equals 5 would be my answer there. And again, you can go back through and check it. 5 plus 2, well, that equals 7, and that's what it's supposed to equal. So it works. Last one. Here we have our variable. Highlight that. What do we need to get rid of? That minus 6, or you can look at it as a negative 6, either way. To get rid of a minus 6 or a negative 6, you have to do the opposite. So we'd have to add 6. Now, our addition property of equality says if you add something to one side of the equation, you have to do it to the other side. And again, by the other side, I mean the other side of the equal sign here. So, since I did it to this side, I also have to do it to that side so that the equation stays equal or balanced. Here, negative 7 plus 6 would be negative 1 is equal to C, and that negative 6 plus 6, that's going to cancel out, it'd be 0. So our answer is C equals negative 1. And you can plug it back in. Negative 1 minus 6 is negative 7. So we know that works. Now, the only other type of problem you might have on your homework is a story problem. And the story problems I know a lot of people freak out about, but it's not as bad if you break it up. And so let's look at this problem here. It says Orville and Wilbur Wright made the first airplane flights in 1903. Wilbur's flight was 360 feet. That's important. So we'll write that down for 4. We know 364 feet. That's going to be an important number. This was 120 feet longer than Orville's flight. Write an equation to represent the flight. We are not going to use a bar diagram. And then solve to find the length of Orville's flight. So first thing, just like these, we looked at what we were solving for. Well, here we're solving for the length of Orville's flight. So I'm going to use the variable f. So f means Orville's flight. And I know I'm going to have to use those two numbers. Well, they always put in clues to help you know what operation to use. Here it says this is 120 feet longer than Orville's flight. So 120 feet longer than would be adding it, and we're going to add it on to Orville's flight, which we said is f. So we're going to add 120 onto f. And that's equal to Wilbur's flight, 364. Once you have your equation, you just solve it like we did above. Here's my variable. So I need to get rid of the number that's on the side of the variable, my plus 120, so I need to subtract 120. If I subtract 120 over here, these cancel. F is equal to 4 minus 0 is 0, or I'm sorry, 4 minus 0 is 4. 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. So we know that Orville's flight was 244 feet. So the story problems, if you break it up, look at what you're solving for, look at your numbers, and try to find your clue words for what operation. They're not that bad. Just remember to break them up.